This episode is sponsored by UPMC Altoona Elite Orthopedics. UPMC Altoona Elite Orthopedics is proud to support youth sports across our region and proud to sponsor the 2023 high school football preview on the Altoona Mirror YouTube channel. To learn more about their board-certified orthopedic surgeons and the wide range of orthopedic conditions they treat, or to schedule an appointment in one of their facilities in Hollidaysburg or Bedford, visit upmcaltoona.com/ortho or call 814-889-3600.
Good.
Come on.
Oh, I'm good.
I was hoping all three of you would come together so I could show this off.
Oh, what is it? What? What is that? What is it?
What do you think it is?
I don't know what it is.
It's a mini fridge.
Oh my god.
Here, let me.
Oh man. We're coming to work. He's gonna. I like that. She's out in our habitat. You can see it's in our habit. This is what we look like before all that makeup and all the clothing people come on.
Scotty.
Oh, what is that? I was afraid to pick it up. I thought it was like one of those buzzer things. Yeah, it's a mini fridge. That rocks. It's great. That rocks. Can I take that and run out and show it to somebody?
Yeah. Hello, Michael.
Hey, you know what I'm thinking we could do this with?
What? Do you see what's on the table?
What is that?
Why don't you take a look?
Yeah, look at it.
I think it would be funny. A very mini fridge. Where did that come from?
From Patrick.
That's pretty good. Hello again, everybody, and welcome to Week 7 of the high school football season here on the Altoona Mirror High School Football Show on YouTube TV and Public Access Channel 13 on your local cable. I'm joined again, like I have been for these first 7 weeks, Mike Boydum, football guru of the Altoona Mirror, Andy Stine, junior football guru of the Altoona Mirror. Before we start our 6 games, Mike's got a lot of good matchups here this week. We got something. I don't know if you can zero in on that. If Dan has the zoom lens in, I asked for a mini fridge. If you can see, Andy, you want to have Mike? Does somebody want to hold it up there? It's a mini fridge. Didn't know what it was. Andy thought it was a lighter for cigarettes, even though we're not allowed to smoke. I thought it was one of those buzzers that like shock your hand or something like that. I was afraid to pick it up.
I didn't even know what it was. And I understand that we made it. Patrick Waxmunski, our photographer, who sometimes subs for Dan, Eisenberg behind the camera, made that with a 3D printer. I'm like thinking, I didn't know we had this technology. And we don't. Pat has it at his house.
Well,
but I wanted it to be bigger.
And I got a message from Central Cambria Athletics. They were wanting to send us waters to put in our mini fridge when we got one. I don't think the waters are going to fit in that fridge.
Yeah. Unless they're like little Barbie bottles of water.
Oh, hey.
But that's nice. Was that Randy Wilson who wanted to send us that?
It might have been Shane McGregor.
Shane McGregor. Oh, that would have been nice. Maybe if somebody would help Shane out up in Central Cambridge, say, hey,
we are Penn State.
You send the water. You send the water, we'll send the mini fridge. But yes, we got a mini fridge, but that doesn't mean that you have to not keep thinking about sending us a mini fridge. But anyways, we didn't get any free stuff this week other than that. And that's not really free because he works here.
Yeah.
Pat Waxman, he was coming here regardless. But that's all right. The thought was nice. It was a nice thought, but I was very excited about it. But anyways, to get excited, here we go. Bellwood-Antis, first game coming off their first win, are hosting Bishop Guilfoyle coming off a loss. They're 3-3. And obviously, Mike, Bellwood-Antis with heavy hearts this week.
I thought we'd start talking about that first, but obviously John Hayes, longtime coach at Bellwood-Antis, passed away on Saturday at 76. I talked to his wife, and one of he had a stroke on Wednesday, and the last few days were really bad for him, but one of the cool things she said was Bellwood, whenever they beat Phillipsburg on Friday, they told John that Bellwood got the win, and she said his eyes lit up and he had a smile on his face. So he was aware that they got their first victory and everything. And you got to think that the kids, especially with this being a home game, will be playing for John in this one, and he has just meant so much to that community over the years. I know Andy has dealt with him before, and you obviously too. And just our hearts go out to the Hayes family and anybody who was touched by him over the years. Thousands of kids, looked at him as a mentor, and this is definitely going to be an emotional night for Bellwood on Friday.
I'm curious, how much can this team use this as motivation, or because he meant so much to that community. I got to think those kids have heard. I don't know if many of them got to play for John, but they knew who John Hayes was.
This is this is Nick Loveridge's sixth season, I think.
So these kids
took over in 2018.
I was going to say, I'm sure, none of them definitely played for Coach Hayes, but I'm sure everyone in that community knows who Coach Hayes is, and and those kids now that are on the football team now, they're in elementary school, so. I'm sure they're going to be fired up to play on Friday night for Coach Hayes, and it wouldn't surprise me if they play well on Friday night because of that.
And I got to think John was probably somebody who the league they have down there, the elementary league, it's north, south, east, west. John would have been involved with that, and would have seen those kids there. And again, Bellwood, small community. You're walking around, you knew, if you played football, you knew who John Hayes was.
The football stadium is named
after him, So.
The other thing about BG going into this game is, they obviously were a little shorthanded against Tyrone. They had some kids injured. Coach Wheeler's hoping to get some of those players back this week, but if they don't, Tyrone was able to run. Brady Ronan ran for 187 yards against BG. And Alex McCartney, obviously we know, can run the ball. So if they don't get some of these starters back, Bellwood may be able to run the ball, and this game could be a lot more competitive than people might think it would be.
And if you can keep BG's offense off the field with 12, 13 play drives, I got to think.
Yeah, then Bellwood will have a chance there. And for sure, like I said, I think Bellwood, like Mike said, this game might be a lot more competitive than we think too.
Yeah. Speaking of this next one, I'm thinking it's going to be competitive because it's on the road. Central 6-0 at Penns Valley 4-2. What kind of trouble could Penns Valley cause for Central?
Well, first of all, I don't know. I don't know if either one of you guys have ever been to Penns Valley.
I have for the track and field.
It takes forever to get there. And then you're driving and you're like, I must have went the wrong way.
Did I see a sign for Susquehanna or Selinsgrove?
And then there's woods, and you're like, okay, I'm lost. And then there's the school. So this
up on the left-hand side.
It's out there. It's a long drive. You got a lot of things to think about on your way there. And Penns Valley has some talented players. Their quarterback is experienced. They have a running back that's got a lot of yards. And this is a senior-led team. Now, they had a really bad setback last week against Clearfield, but up until that, they were 4-1. They were, and the game they lost to Bald Eagle area, they were winning at
17-2 or something like that.
So Penns Valley can, play with Central if they play their best game. But I am on the Central bandwagon now. I'm gonna stop doubting Central, and I got the Central winning this one. But it'll be a good test going on the road. For the Dragons.
I've been on that bandwagon, incidentally. So, but that Penns Valley, you were kind of surprised. Yeah, you thought they were going to beat Clearfield last week, did you know?
And I think the week before that, it's like it was a close game with Phillipsburg with Penns Valley. So it's like Mike brings up a good point. It's kind of like what Penns Valley team shows up on Friday night. But yeah, this could be kind of like Bellwood and BG. This could be a lot more interesting than people may think. And
speaking of interesting, Mike, I mean, this game's third, and a lot of others you could have had the other weeks could have been first. Chestnut Ridge 6-0 at Penn Cambria 5-1. I always have this with me. Chestnut Ridge, I mean, Penn Cambria wins this one. They got to really feel good about the chances for the rest of the season and playoff bound stuff like that.
Well, I covered Chestnut Ridge last week against Central Cambria, and I went into the press box and I talked to the guys, and they said, well, who do you think is going to win this one? And I said, well, Central Cambria, they haven't really beaten a lot of teams. And the Chestnut Ridge people themselves said to me, well, we haven't really beat a lot of good teams either. And if you do look at Chestnut Ridge's schedule, they have had the easier part of their schedule at the beginning of the year. They're going into a tough stretch now where they play Penn Cambria, BG, and Richland the next 3 weeks.
Ooh.
So that is as tough a stretch as you'll see. So I think we're going to find out about the Lions now and find out whether this is a team that is going to be contending for a district title or a team that is just in the middle of the pack. As far as Penn Cambria goes, great opportunity for them. They've played well against everybody. Their only loss is to Richland, and they were right there in that game.
Yeah. As far as Penn Cambria, too, at the beginning of the season, if I had told you, hey, they have to replace Harold, and they had a bunch of other good kids we never mentioned, whose names elude me right now, I apologize, that were good ball players. The kid that broke
Zach Grove was a very good player.
Yeah, and if I had told you they'd be 5-1 after week 6, I bet you'd have been like,
probably. I would have said probably not, but hey, like we said, they graduate Harold, and here they are still playing really important games here against a 6-0 Chestnut Ridge team. So good for them. I mean, Penn Cambria's right there. It looks like they haven't lost much of a step at all.
And Nick Felis always says mountain mentality, so it must be really clicking up there.
So now we can say Coach Felis coaches them up, because that's what I always want to say about Max Shoemaker. I just think his teams are. Has he even had a losing season recently?
I doubt it.
It just seems like he always coaches those kids up.
Yeah.
Our next game, another good matchup. Any other week could have been our first game. 5-1 Juniata Valley at Mount Union 5-1. But what do you know about Mount Union here that Juniata Valley is going to be worried about?
Well, Mount Union, they only have one loss. They lost to Berlin, and they were upset about it. One of their goals was to go undefeated. And I think that Mount Union doesn't have a ton of players. They don't have a huge roster. But the
high 20s,
the top tier players on their team are very good. Bryce Danish is very good at quarterback. And Mount Union was picked in the Blitz to win that side of the ICC. Juniata Valley was like second or third. And I think that Coach Musser is probably happy with a 5-1 start, I would think. Now, he's certainly not happy with what happened against West Branch, but I think that overall, if you had to tell them they were going to go 5-1 to start the season, you'd probably be pretty happy with that. And now they've gotten some contributions from some of their younger players. I mean, obviously, Andrew McMonigal didn't come out this year. He had suffered an injury in wrestling last year and couldn't make his way back. He's going to try to get back for wrestling as far as I understand. But Andrew Clark last week, younger kid for Juniata Valley, had a big game, and maybe they're starting to find the replacement now for McMonigal that can get them to where they need to be.
And he's a ninth grader?
That's what I believe.
See, that's what, when you played, did you guys ever have a ninth grader make contributions to that level?
Funny thing is, when I played at Mo Valley, you basically had to play junior high when you were in ninth grade. There was only ever one kid that made the jump from in ninth grade to varsity.
You?
It wasn't me. No, it was Eric.
How big were you in ninth grade? You were like,
oh, it was like ninth grade through 12th grade. I was like 310, played football, and I dropped down to 275 to wrestle. So
you starved yourself.
I mean, for like 3 weeks, I only ate one lunch instead of three. So I'm kidding.
We're not telling kids at home we were watching to eat 3 lunches.
I never ate 3 lunches.
We are not telling kids at home to eat 3 lunches. Our next game here, and this is a game we were talking about who we're going to pick. I listened to the Altoona game on the radio, and they scored the first drive and everything, and I thought, oh my God, they're down on the road, and they scored, and they lost 54-7. This week,
State College.
Yeah, Friday night Altoona 2-4, hosting 3-3 Chambersburg. What do you know about this Chambersburg team?
Well, first of all, I know that if Altoona's going to win this game, they're going to need to get some of their players back. Ron Mosley didn't play against Harrisburg. Troutman didn't play. They need to get these kids back if they're going to be able to win. With that said, Chambersburg is one team that Altoona has had a lot of success against. They've won 9 of the last 11 matchups against Chambersburg. They won last year. Chambersburg is not really a high-powered offensive team. I think they beat Carlisle 3-0. But they play tough, and they have a good coaching staff, and they could certainly come in here and spoil Altoona's homecoming. Altoona really needs to put these losses that they've had the last 3 weeks behind them because they've been very discouraging, especially the State College and Harrisburg ones, because you couldn't have started the game off any better than they did. They did exactly what they wanted, and they need to just figure out a way to carry that going forward and stick to it and keep it going the rest of the game.
Have you ever been on a 2-4 team where on week 7, are you starting to look at basketball season, wrestling season? I got to think these coaches got to do as much mental coaching this week as physical preparation for this.
Yeah, I have been on a 2-4 team going into week 7, and actually it was my senior year. We won the last 2 games going into week 7, and then we lost the last 4. But yeah, I'm sure at some point your mind starts going to maybe other sports, maybe something that's going on the rest of the year in school. But yeah, I think that there's going to be some teaching, some refocusing going on for Altoona, and hopefully they can turn it around for the last few games.
Our last game we're going to talk about is 2-3 Hollidaysburg at 4-2 Oil City. I know they played each other a couple times in a sub-regional game. The last time they played was up at St. Francis. Hollidaysburg missed 2 field goals, lost 9-7. But Oil City's is that a District 9 or District 10?
That's District 10. Yeah.
They're a juggernaut. I mean, I've looked at some of their state scores in our Saturday morning paper, and sometimes they really hammer teams. What does Hollidaysburg have in store for them on Friday?
Well, they have that. Oil City has that Ethan Knox
the kid runs for 1,000 yards every 2 games.
Yeah, pretty much. But it seems like these kids up in District 10. I mean, Journey Brown was doing that. It just seems to be District 10. You can run all day. And Hollidaysburg's actually done a decent job in the past against these guys. Maybe it's Homer DeLautre's District 10 ties.
Coaching them up.
Sure. But they need to be healthy. Although Maddox Bainey did a good job filling in for Drew Weiland and some of the other guys that filled in for players like Albright that was hurt. They did a good job filling in, but they need to get healthy so that those guys who fill in are depth behind the starters instead of being the starters and then not having the depth behind that.
How about as far as coaching, because of what Oil City does and because of what Hollidaysburg does, if you know that Drew Weiland's not playing, and are those coaches at Oil City telling them, say, hey, this quarterback just throws. He doesn't run.
Yeah.
Do you think at the high school level they're telling kids that?
Probably, yeah. They're going to put themselves in the best possible position to win for sure. So, yeah, I'm sure they're going to be have it in their mind, maybe a run play's coming. But yeah, maybe they're preparing for the pass this week for sure.
And now the fun part of our program that we know everybody on our public access channel is now looking forward to, like they did on our YouTube channel. Mike's going to start us off with his stat of the week.
Well, first of all, just before I do that, I wanted to do this because, all right, we got the matchup here today. Claysburg plays Glendale, and my dream is that we get everybody's helmet, that we can have these matchups for everyone. And I wanted to give credit to both these schools because they both sent in their helmets, and they play this week. This is a game we might not normally talk about, but I'm going to touch on it real quick. Glendale needs a bounce back win after a loss last week, and Claysburg has a chance to go 4-3 and have just been scoring a ton of points lately. So kudos to these two teams for sending in their helmets, and we can finally do this. Hopefully we can do that with more games.
Our special effects department was out on lunch break and wasn't able to do that for your screen, so Mike acted as our, like they used to do on Monday Night Football for old people who are watching, who remember when they used to have the two helmets kind of explode. Of course, now they wouldn't like that because of concussions. We don't want exploding helmets. Yeah. But anyways,
the stat of the week is I am doing this one in honor of Coach John Hayes this week. I first started working at the Mirror in 2006. I got to be in the Fearless Forecast, and we make our picks, obviously. And in 2007, Southern Huntington almost beat Bellwood. Bellwood beat them 26-19, but it was a 7-point game. And you know, I'm in like my early years here at the Mirror, and I thought the next year I was like, I'm going to make a big splash and pick Southern Huntington to beat Bellwood because no one will see that coming, and they almost won last year. So I picked Southern Huntington to beat Bellwood-Antis in 2008, and because it was at Southern Huntington. Well, the final score was 46-0 Bellwood, and the next game I covered was Bellwood, and John Hayes decided to tell me about what a great pick I made the week before when I picked Southern Huntington. So that always stuck with me, and I didn't try to make big splashes on my Fearless Forecast picks anymore after that.
Yeah, my John Hayes story was I covered a playoff game between Bishop McCourt and Bellwood, in which Bishop McCourt won, in a game in which they were given a 5th down, kind of like that Colorado game that had college football in the 80s. And I knew of John, and I had talked to John, but I always thought of John as a very, I wouldn't want to make John Hayes mad. You know, he treated you fairly, but if you didn't, and I had to go down and talk to him about this, when even the officials in the press box admitted their crew down in the field gave McCourt an extra. And I tell you what, I walked in and he talked to me. He answered every question, and he could have lost it and went off on him, and he didn't. And I always remembered it, and I thought, I would have went, I can't swear on TV, but I would have went nuts. And John didn't go nuts. And again, that's what I remember about John Hayes.
We're doing John Hayes stories. My would be my senior year. Josh Kleinfelder was their running back. Josh Kleinfelder against Mo Valley against my senior year. I think the stat line was like 8 carries, 321 yards, 5 touchdowns. It was something ridiculous. And then, so years later, I went to be the sports editor in Tyrone. Coach Hayes was one of the first people to welcome me to the area. And I talked to him about that game. And that turned into a Josh Kleinfelder talk fest about how good he was. And he was good. So,
he went to
Lycoming College's all-time leading rusher.
Mike's alma mater there. Anyways,
I never laid a hand on him either.
Speaking of this, since you were talking about your line of the week.
There we go.
What is your line of the week?
Short steps. Short steps are better than long steps.
All right. Northern Bedford. Speaking of scoring a lot of points, we mentioned Claysburg did that. Northern Bedford scored a lot of points last week, too. They won 62-28 over Tusky Mountain. We originally thought that might have been a record. Gary Black informed me it wasn't a record. They scored 68, I think it was, back in 1970 in a game. So still, nonetheless, 62 points is impressive. They had 479 total yards, 250 rushing, 229 passing. Left tackle, Brock Beach. Left guard, Brian Amick. Center, Adam Crooks. Right guard, Jake Bowser. Right tackle, Joey O'Brien. There we go. The tight end is Reese Dybert. Nice job for all those guys.
And now to the best part of the show, in my head, our cool name segment. There we go.
I wanna know what's the name of the game.
And our cool names here, now people are going to sit there and say, I only pick Italian names. If you look back at week 6 and week 5, there were no Italian names there. There was a week 4 one, but it was half Italian. But this week, week 7, from Homer Center, Vinny Tagliotti. Vinny Tagliotti, who if I think, Vinny Sr., I think, was an extra on The Sopranos.
Probably. Might have been in Goodfellas.
He's a lineman for Homer Center. And then from Mo Valley, which whenever I was looking for it, Andy helped me this one. This one is, I love alliteration. If you're a fan of the show, you know his name is Rocco Reefer.
Come on, Rock.
He's a running back linebacker from Moshannon Valley. Rocco Reefer.
I've known him.
Just think what his name could have been, like Rocco Mangianati or something like a Mangialotti or something.
He makes me feel old because his dad's only like 3 or 4 years older.
Yeah, Rocco Reefer. But that's our cool names.
There we go.
If you can think of any cool names you want to email Scott Frank, you could. Or if you want to bring it in with your mini fridge when you drop it off and say, hey, here's a cool name you could put on the mini fridge. Look at that magnet up there. That magnet so much wants to be on.
It does.
We
need a fridge for it, yeah.
But as Mike's over here pondering, where could we get?
I'm just trying to figure out how to get out of here.
Anyways, but for Mike Boyden, for Andy Stine, for Dan Eisenberg behind the camera, I'm Scott Franco. We will see you next week for week 8 of the High School Football Show here on the Mirrors YouTube, TV, and Public Access Channel 13.